Engels once wrote, "The dangerous class, the social scum, that passively rotting mass thrown off by the lowest layers of old society. Its conditions of life, however, prepare it far more for the part of a bribed tool of reactionary intrigue." By the second half of the 19th century, conspiracy, assassination, and terror had become common political tools. The identity of the killer didn't matter much in this game. These were just names to be recorded in history. The assassins were so insignificant that Austria didn't even execute Principe. He died of tuberculosis in prison in 1917. For 100 years, Austria had tried to preserve peace and the medieval order in Europe. But as the idea of peace began to fade, Austria itself started to disappear from the political stage. Every nation was preparing for an unknown war. In an arms race, defense budgets grew dramatically. Germany, with a rapid increase in military spending, became the most militarized nation in Europe. On the other side were the arms factories, powerful and wealthy companies that fueled this race through propaganda. High-ranking officials and ministers, many of them shareholders in these firms, made little effort to hide their enthusiasm for a profitable war. The world was closing in on Emperor Franz Joseph I of Austria. In 1889, his only son, Crown Prince Rudolf, committed suicide. 9 years later, his wife, Empress Elizabeth, was murdered by an Italian anarchist, stabbed through the heart with a long needle. By 1916, it was too late for everything. Franz Ferdinand, the emperor's nephew and heir, had been killed in Bosnia. And on his deathbed, Franz Joseph watched the glory of his empire sink into the abyss of the Great War. From the shattered bones and torn flesh of the old world, a new power was rising. This deadly game was the birth pain of a new world. The bloodshed came with slogans: liberty, honor, patriotism, lasting peace, defense of small nations, and the struggle between good and evil.
You are the very defenders of civilization itself. The forces of good against the forces of evil. For this war is indeed a crusade. In truth, I tell you, the Germans do not act like us, neither do they think like us, for they are not like us. Children of God are those who shell cities populated only by civilians. The children of God are those who advance armed, hiding behind women and children. The children of God, with God's help, you must kill the Germans, good or bad, young or old. Kill every one of them.
But these words were only excuses for powers that had long awaited a great war, a war to turn their ambitions into reality. The flames of war spread, turning Europe's wealth into ashes. On the Western Front, German troops advanced rapidly at first, crushing France's dream of revenge from the previous war. On August 22, 1914 alone, 27,000 French soldiers were killed, the deadliest single day in France's military history. But Britain's entry into the war changed everything. The Western Front became a stalemate. The muddy hell of the Somme and Verdun swallowed soldiers' spirits. In truth, the fate of France and the rest of Europe mattered little to Britain. For years, Britain had kept itself detached from continental affairs, focusing instead on expanding its colonies. At the dawn of the 20th century, an American journalist wrote, "Britain is not strong because she is powerful, but because her rivals are weak." But now, Britain was alarmed by Europe's industrial and military growth. If Germany, with its powerful economy, advanced arms industry, and iron discipline, conquered France, Britain's position as the world's greatest colonial empire would be shaken. So Britain played a complex game of chess. At any cost, Europe had to remain weaker than Britain. The ideal outcome was the mutual exhaustion of Germany and France. Britain used bribes and secret treaties to drag neutral nations into the war, even luring Italy, once an ally of Germany, with promises of land. Beyond the Western Front, another chessboard awaited: the East. To protect India, its most valuable colony, and to control key waterways, Britain needed influence in West Asia. Its main obstacle, the Ottoman Empire. Through spies like Lawrence of Arabia, Britain stirred Arab nationalism against the Ottomans, Germany's allies, pushing the dying empire into deeper chaos. But if the Ottomans fell, Russia and Austria would be free to expand, especially Russia, which had long dreamed of reaching the warm waters of the South. For Britain, the best outcome was the simultaneous collapse of all three empires. As the war dragged on, Germany tried to seize the initiative. Its submarines encircled the British Isles, hoping to starve Britain into submission. But London refused any peace offer, dreaming instead of victory and the spoils to come. Britain envisioned a vast empire stretching from India to Egypt, linking its Asian and African colonies. Eventually, France's finances were exhausted. London alone carried the financial burden of the Allied war effort. But Britain wasn't the only one profiting from Europe's misery. Across the Atlantic, the United States, an emerging industrial power, sought new markets. The Monroe Doctrine, which barred European interference in the Americas, also kept America out of Europe's sphere of influence. That balance no longer served U.S. interests. In May 1915, a German submarine sank the British ocean liner Lusitania, killing several Americans. It gave the U.S. the perfect pretext. By late 1916, with Britain running out of money, a British delegation traveled to America seeking financial aid. Washington agreed. American loans financed the Allied war machine. Now the war's outcome was tied directly to American banks and investors. If Germany won, the fate of America's $2 billion loans to France and Britain would be uncertain. In the third year of the war, the U.S. entered the conflict, partly to protect its investments, partly to assert itself as a global power. Finally, the whistle blew. The Great War ended in 1918. With it, the 19th century ended too. Its glory drowned in the war's abyss. After 4.5 years, something new emerged from the wreckage. In Russia, Tsar Alexander's government collapsed under the weight of defeat. The October Revolution of 1917 swept it away. Two years after Franz Joseph's death, the Austro-Hungarian Empire also fell, crushed by war and internal revolt. In 1918, after the Ottoman defeat, Allied forces occupied Constantinople. By 1922, the Ottoman Empire breathed its last. Sultan Mehmed VI signed its dissolution. Britain and France, now free from Russian and Austrian competition, divided the spoils of West Asia under the secret Sykes-Picot Agreement. First negotiated years before the war even ended. From this deal, the modern borders of the Middle East were drawn. Britain took control of Palestine, paving the way for the creation of Israel. All these secret treaties contradicted the public statements of Allied leaders, and if the Bolsheviks hadn't exposed them after their revolution, the world might never have known. On the Western Front, Kaiser Wilhelm II abdicated in November 1918 and fled to the Netherlands. In June 1919, the Treaty of Versailles was signed. It imposed brutal terms on Germany: loss of territory, severe military restrictions, and crushing reparations. The German Empire ended where it had begun, with the Kaiser's crown. Many Germans saw the treaty as an insult, a humiliation. General Erich Ludendorff, Germany's most prominent commander, claimed that the army hadn't been defeated on the battlefield, but betrayed from within by liberals, socialists, and Jews who, he said, had stabbed Germany in the back. 4 empires had fallen. Britain had seized the Middle East, but over it now loomed a new power: America. There is still much we don't know about the Great War. The assassination of the Archduke gave the great powers a pretext, a chance to turn their hidden rivalries into open conflict. Whether it was a tragic accident or a calculated gamble remains uncertain. It was a killing not to settle old scores, but to shape the future. France received its reparations. But no one felt victorious. No one felt safe. As Viscount Snowdon said, the Treaty of Versailles is not a peace. It is an announcement of another war.